Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and did you enjoy the day of smashing? I sure did. One of the combos that I played was Time Traveling Beauty and the Beast, which I said was a crazy combo. And though I won that game, I didn't get a chance to show off their insane play, and I wanted to do that today so that you can know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very hard to follow, which is why I'm using my mod in order to let you see turn by turn what I'm actually doing. This move is pretty interesting because it's possible at many points in the game, but the later in the game, the easier it is to pull off because you need less cards in order to do it. You can do it early with more setup, or you can do it later with less setup, but the point is, once you get going, you're pretty much in the driver's seat. For that reason, I'm not even trying to win until I get to that point, unless it's obvious that I can do really good stuff. But mostly, I'm trying to just get the board in a state where I can do my thing and pretty much be in the driver's seat for the rest of the game. There are a couple of key cards that are needed to be in play, and a couple of key cards that are needed in your hand. Everything else, it really doesn't matter. Since this can happen at any game, any point in the game, I'm going to assume it's going to happen roughly around the mid-mark. So let's say that I have 7 cards. I probably have a lot more, but I'm saying that there are 18 cards left in my deck. With starting deck being 35, again, we're around the halfway point. I've got some of my key cards out, and you'll see that there are 3 soldiers, Lumiere, Mrs. Pot and Chip, and Cogsworth, each with the same structure: to discard a card to do something. Play an extra action, play a character of 3 or less, draw a card. Now, these abilities are good, but what actually matters more is the fact that I am discarding a card, because of the most important card in this combo, Petals of the Rose. This is a base modifier. After you discard 1 or more cards from your hand, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Place them on the top or bottom of the deck in any order. This is a deck sifting card. If you know what I believe in the channel, you know I'm not a fan of deck sifting. But that's because deck sifting usually comes in the form of plays, like a field trip or cosmic knowledge. Instead, this is free deck sifting, and you'll see that I will use it to its insane advantage. A card that isn't necessary, but is kind of nice, is Be Our Guest. If you have discarded a card from your hand this turn, draw a card. It's just a little bit of a safety net, especially if you can count cards correctly. What I'm about to do requires a lot of focus. I may even make mistakes, but I will try and catch them. So see if you can follow along. The 5 cards that you need are Time Walk, Discover the Library, Beast, Bell, and Do-Over. Everything else really doesn't matter yet. There is 1 card that I need to be in the deck, which is Dr. Wen. Sometimes I may have it beforehand, sometimes not. But everything else is pretty much don't care, because I've got the cards I need eventually. And there's enough diversity in the deck that you can figure out exactly what you want to do. It's also worth noting that Time Box is important here to get an extra action. With Cogsworth out as well, I have the potential for 3 actions, and that's really important, but I'll be playing a lot more than 3. So I'm going to shuffle my deck to show that the order doesn't matter, but I'm also going to flip the deck over so that it's easier to track. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play Time Walk to draw 2 cards and play an extra minion and extra action this turn. It's going to go on the bottom of my deck. To the best extent possible, I'll be using this counter right here to keep track of the number of cards that I've drawn. So I will draw 2 cards. Now, I've reduced the amount by 1 because 2 went out, went back in, and Time Walk is now on the bottom. So what I'm going to do next, I have 2 minions in action plays. Because I've spread out, I need to decide where I'm going. And it doesn't really matter. I'd prefer to leave Time Box out, but it's possible that you can get Time Box back fairly quickly. So let's say I'm going to go to Cogsworth base. Ideally, there's only 1 rival minion or no rival minions at all. I will play Beast. Beast says, if Bell is here, place a +1 counter on it and this card. I don't really care about that. But the talent, discard a card to place a +1 counter on this card. I am going to discard Discover the Library. This is a special card that says, after you discard this card from your hand, you may play it as an extra action. And it draws 2 cards and then discards a card. But we also have Petals of the Rose. This is another card that reacts to discarding cards. Which do I want to do first? I want to do Petals of the Rose, and you'll see why. So, I discarded a card, which is Discover the Library. I'm going to look at the top 2 cards of my deck, and you know what? I don't care about them. They're not Dr. Wen, they're not Time Walk, they're going on the bottom. I am now going to play discover the library to draw 2 cards, which I will, and then I will discard a card. This is going to be an enchanted object. Eventually, I know I'm going to get one of them. It just so happens that I have it early. I will discard it, which will let me play it. I can only do this once per turn, and it's going to go on my burst play. And I'll get all that for a power counter. So far I've got 2 power, 5 power, and 3 power, and that's a total of 10. But I have discarded enchanted objects, so again, that is taken care of. The discard is forced by Discover the Library, so I get to do Petals of the Rose again. So I'm going to look at the top 2 cards. Nope. Not Time Walk, not Dr. Wen, and I'm going to sift those as well. Now at this point, I still have 1 minion and 1 action left, because Beast didn't play an action, he discarded an action that could be played. With my remaining minion, I will play Bell. Actually, I have multiple actions because I still have Time Box, and you'll see I have these things as well. Before I play Bell, though, I may decide to do a little bit more sifting. But just to give you a sense of where this is going, I'm going to say, you know what? I'll play Bell now to draw 3 cards because Beast is here. Now, Bell has a talent to draw a card or discard a card. So, I can do that talent to draw a card. So, Bell has been used and Beast has been used. I have played both of my minions. I have an action for my regular action, I have an action from Time Box, and I have my 3 recruits right here. I'm going to do Lumiere's ability. Discard a card to play an extra character of power 3 or less here. Now this is important because the part to play an extra character is bankable. So I'm going to say, alright, I will do that. I will discard a card. You know what? I don't need Time is Fleeting, most likely. So that's now discarded. I discarded a card with Petals of the Rose. Note that I'm not discarding one or more cards from my hand. They are different triggers. As long as I do a series of different triggers, I will get to keep using Petals of the Rose. So again, that do-over is nice, but you know what? It's not what I need, and I don't care. Now I'm going to do Cogsworth for the same thing, and I'll bank the extra action. Now I have 3 actions, and I'm going to look at 2 cards. Wormhole is really important, but I don't need it now. At this point, I can choose. I don't know that Dr. Wen is on top of my deck, but at some point I can decide to do the do-over. So I'm going to use one of my actions to play do-over. And I will return Bell and play her again to draw up to 3 cards, to draw another 3 cards, and because I didn't count before, I drew 4 with Bell the first time, and now I just drew another 3. I'm up to 11 cards. And notice, Time Walk being on the bottom of my deck, because of deck sifting, it's already back. I have 2 actions left. I still have Bell's talent. Let's go ahead and draw a card with Bell. Now I'm at 12. I will play Time Walk again. I will draw 2 cards. I'm up to 14. Time Walk will go on the bottom of my deck. And now I'm at 6 cards left in my deck. Now this is where I need to start getting pretty careful, because you want to make sure you do not exhaust the deck. In fact, you want your deck to be in a precise place. Now I know that I have banked an extra character of power 3 or less. That's going to be a Time Raider. That's really important because Time Raider is going to help me top deck some, well in this case bottom deck, some very good cards that I care about that will allow it to make sure that Time Walk does not reset the deck. And you'll see why. So I played a Time Raider. That was my extra Lumiere. He's now accounted for. I have not used Be Our Guest yet at all. At some point I can draw a card. But Time Walk gave me an extra minion play, which can be Dr. Wen, to do Bell again. So now Bell will be replayed, and I'm going to draw 3 more cards. I can use Bell's talent to draw a card as well. Now, I have 2 actions left. I have not used Time Box. I have not used the extra action from Cogsworth. The only thing I've done is a do-over. Now, it's important to note that Bell is up to 3 cards. So if I wanted to do something, I don't have to draw up to 3 cards. And she also has the talent to draw a card or discard a card. Now, at this point, I've run out of how many cards that I've drawn. I think I played Time Walk again, so I'm going to go up to 16, but I've honestly lost track because that's how hard this is. I do know that I have 2 actions left. I've got a do-over I can use. I want to hold on to a wormhole. So let's say that I want to do a do-over, and I want to put 2 cards on draw bell, draw up to 2 cards. Now, unfortunately, I only have 1 Time Raider, and Time Walk is the card that's over there. Now, there are some other things that I can do in order to manipulate this, but this is a pretty good hand right now, and I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to stick with Time Walk in my hand and just save it for the next one. Do-over is going to go over there. I still have 1 action. I can use that into the time slip. If I had more cards left, and if I'm being honest, I probably could have used Be Our Guest to my advantage to make sure that I still had 1 more Time Walk left in me to play another minion, which could be a Time Raider. As you can see, this is very hard to follow, and I can optimize this, but I'm doing this all live instead of sitting down and pre-programming it, because I want to show you how repeatable this actually is. So, Time Raiders, if I could get another one out, then I can do, because I would have drawn Time Walk earlier. Now I can decide, alright, what 2 cards do I want on the bottom of my deck? Well, I still have Bell's Talent to discard a card. Let's count the power. I've got 5, 10, 15, 20 power. 5, 10, 15, 20. Bell can discard a card, which is Break the Curse. That would give me 25. That can break most bases in an instant, and I've gone pretty much from 3 to 25, but I still have a turn and things that I can do. For example, Time Raider, I can say, alright, you know what? I want that to be on the bottom of my deck. I want a do-over. I can choose which cards I want. If you get the 3rd Time Raider out, you have even more options. It's important. I have 2 cards. I have not exhausted my deck ever. But now I'm going to score this base solo because there's no one left on it. Well, when that comes time, I'm going to do Wormhole. And all these cards that I just played this turn that are really good are going to get shuffled into my deck so that when I draw 2 at the end of my turn, I'm still starting with Time Walk. I've got pretty good odds. I still have Time Box. I still have all this set up. I didn't even use Mrs. Pot and Chips to draw a card. Again, keeping track of the field is really hard to do. But now, Wormhole is in the discard pile. I still have a great hand. I'm going to draw 2, and now I have got to end my turn. So you can see, I've got a number of choices. Alright, you know what? Maybe Time Box played a jumper early on in the turn for setup. What don't I need? Okay, I don't really need all these enchanted objects. I don't need 1.1 gigawatts. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've got a ton of cards. I'm not sure why Cogsworth is in my hand. I feel like that shouldn't be. So we're going to put him back in the deck. Maybe I drew too many cards. But enchanted object, I don't need that jumper. I don't need you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The point is, I'll have 10 cards, but I have a 4 or 5 card deck left, and they're all really good cards. With this setup that I have, let's see what I do next turn. Okay, I will Time Walk. This time I'm going to keep it on the bottom, like that, to draw 2 cards, and I'm in business. Now, I have 2 cards left that aren't Time Walk. That means that they're going to be Dr. Wen and the Beast, and I can do it in any order. So let's do Mrs. Pot and Chip. Discard a card to draw a card. Well, I'm going to discard a card. Now, the timing here is a little different because whereas the other things are bankable, I will actually draw the card before I do the deck sifting. But that's okay. I will play an enchanted object by discarding it, but that will happen after I draw the card. Now I'll do the deck sifting. Hey, you know what? I like both those cards. Let's go ahead and we're going to put Time Walk back on top. So now, the card that I drew is Dr. Wen, and Be Our Guest is going to draw that card. Now I'm in business. Again, I've got 2 Time Raiders. What cards do I want on the bottom of my deck that are going to be really good? Hey, how about that Do-Over I really like? How about another Into the Time Slip? And by this point, I think you know what's going to happen, is that I'm going to draw. The number of cards that I drew last time was about 16, and I haven't even started doing my Bell Time Walk loop with an even smaller deck. I'm going to draw through my deck again, and I can keep doing this if I set it up properly. You can potentially go from 3 consecutive 0 to breakpoints if your partner hasn't rage quit by that point. This combo can be really insane, and all it does is require patience and the right setup, because with so much deck sifting, it doesn't matter. You can get the Time Walk quickly, keep going. Belle lets you draw 4 cards every time that she gets instanced, which can happen with 2 Do-Overs, Belle, Dr. Wen. If you weren't focused on trying to kick people off, you can throw in like an Into the Time Slip to return her and play her again with her own Time Walk. This combo's crazy. I wish I had a chance to go through all that during the game, but it didn't happen. But now you get to see it. What do you think of this combo? And I haven't even talked about some of their other plays that they can do, like Stasis Field and Gaston, in order to slow things down. Like, if you're worried about getting the setup, well, you've got a 1-turn stall card. You've got Gaston, which can also be a stall card. It also gives you free discards. Now, you'll only deck sift once, but that could speed up as well. If you remember the game, one of the jerk things that Sonus did that was smart is he actually discarded Gaston himself so that I couldn't make use of the discard, which makes sense if you know about this faction. But that's another lever I have in order to force a discard. I could even use it as a play for Break the Curse. If this combo gets going, there is so much that they can do, and they can draw through their deck so quickly as long as you wait and get it set up.